So this is simply false.
Hey Dan, it is an honor that you would respond to one of my videos again, and I mean that genuinely. Despite our disagreements, as I've told you before, I often find your content fascinating and I've enjoyed learning from you. So first, I want to highlight an area of agreement. As you will recall, my original video addressed the claims of those who say that Leviticus 18:22 is about cultic prostitution or rape. I was happy to see that you and I are on the same page there.
So it's not my contention that these passages were about rape or about cultic prostitution. I don't think they were.
So, as you and I both agree, despite the claims of some progressive Christians, like Brandon Robertson, whom I addressed in my video, this passage is not talking about cultic prostitution or rape. Your disagreement with me and the scholars that I quoted in my video seems to come down to the fact that you think we are overly confident in what this text says. You find this overconfident rhetoric to be problematic and based on identity politics.
Anyone who suggests it is unambiguous doesn't know what they're talking about. It is my contention that this rhetoric is highly misinformed and highly problematic and is just based on identity politics. There's nothing clear or absolute about these passages.
So I know you disagree with their views, but I don't think it's exactly fair to say that most scholars who would agree that Leviticus 18:22 clearly prohibits homosexual behavior are simply misinformed and motivated by identity politics. Dr. Roy Gain, whom I quoted at the beginning of my video, is a very respected scholar who has written extensively on these texts. Also, Dr. Gain's mentor was Jacob Milgram, who, as you know, is widely regarded as one of the top scholars in the world on Leviticus. You might believe that scholars like Dr. Gain, Dr. Gagnon, and Dr. Davidson are overly confident in their assertions, but to say that they don't know what they're talking about and are just motivated by identity politics, I think is unfair. In any case, you conclude that we cannot extrapolate a general prohibition of homosexual behavior from Leviticus 18:22 and 2013 because you believe these passages condemn only the active role in male same-sex intercourse. This conclusion of yours is despite the fact that Leviticus 20:13 clearly imposes a punishment upon both participants in the act. You respond to this point by saying that the text was later changed to impose this punishment upon both people, which is to admit that the final text we have says what it says. Here's what you said.
So the problem here is that Leviticus 20 verse 13, as with a handful of other passages in this chapter, shows indications of having been altered. Somebody came through later and changed the text to expand the punishment from one party to both parties.
So this is a very interesting discussion, and I enjoyed reading Alian's paper that you cited, which highlights the awkwardness of the syntax in Leviticus 20:13. I would also note that I was happy to see that Alian is in agreement with me and the scholars I cited that the laws in Leviticus are comprehensive in condemning homosexual behavior, as Alian writes. Quote, Leviticus 18:22 and 2013 ban all male couplings involving anal penetration, seemingly those coerced and those voluntary, those with men of higher status, equal status, or lower status, those with men of one's own community or another community. The comprehensive character of the prohibitions appears to antedate the activity of the final H redactors. There is no evidence that the two formulations were ever anything but general in scope. In any case, regarding your claim that the text of Leviticus 20:13 was later changed to impose this punishment upon both participants, it really doesn't matter if the text was updated. My point still stands in regard to what the final text was meant to say. So, respectfully, we can extrapolate a general prohibition from this legislation. Dr. Gagnon has some good insights on this point. Quote, even if 2013 were a later formulation, it would represent the earliest commentary on the meaning of 1822, namely that both partners in homosexual intercourse were liable to the death penalty. Presumably, 2013 would have been formulated by the same priestly circles as those that formulated 1822. Is this not the best evidence we have of how the formulators of 1822 would have understood their own prescription? Dr. Gagnon goes further to give a reasonable explanation as to why the legislation focuses on the active partner and how, contra alian, this does not suggest that the law initially condemned only the dominant and assertive partner. Dr. Gagnon also provides a reasonable explanation for why women are explicitly mentioned in verse 23. Quote, all of the prescriptions in Leviticus 18 minus 18:21, which does not deal with intercourse, address only the dominant active partner, usually the male. The only prescription directed specifically to both males and females is the law concerning bestiality in 1823, an exception easily explained on the assumption that women were regarded as the initiators in any intercourse with animals. By Allian's reasoning, the authors of the laws against incest would have held only the men accountable for incest, even in cases where the woman was a willing participant or even prime instigator, in contradistinction to penalties prescribed for both participants in 20:11 through 21. We would also have to assume that the formulators of the prohibition against having sex with your neighbor's wife in 1820 never intended to penalize the wife in an adulterous affair. Yet all of the evidence we have from ancient Israelite law indicates that women involved in adulterous affairs were punished with death if they were willing participants in the act. The reason why Leviticus 18:22 focuses on the active male partner is because the passive male partner, the one penetrated, takes the place of the female, and the female is not directly addressed in the prohibitions of chapter 18. By analogy with the laws against incest and adultery, we should assume that both consenting partners in the abominable act were liable to punishment. In any case, once again, the final version of the text that we have plainly says what it says. Therefore, even if the text was later changed, my point still stands. The verse, as we have it, reflects the theology of the Israelite community who saw homosexual behavior even between two consenting participants as a sexual violation. Hey, thank you so much for your interaction, Dan. It was a pleasure. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did like it, consider giving it a thumbs up and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you want to see more content like this, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel. You can also hit that little bell so that you'll be notified when new videos like this are released. I'll see you next time. Blessings and shalom.